Hi, I'm Richard Pedley, and this is Garden Out, where we explore the creation of regenerative foodscapes. And I'm joined here by Dr. Nelson Lebo, who is the eco-advisor of the Palmerston City Council and has established this farm here, Eco School, where he does permaculture design internships. So welcome, Nelson, how are you?
Thanks, Richard. Welcome to the farm.
Thank you. So could you tell us a little bit, please, about your role as the eco-advisor of the council?
Yeah, primarily my job is to advise people on housing, whether they're building a new home, renovating, or whether they simply have a cold, damp, moldy home or a high power bill. Free, independent advice, any ratepayer of the city council. But in the summertime, not many people are ringing me about moldy homes, and so I'm consulting people on gardening, composting, water management, drought proofing their section. Essentially, I'm a full-time government employed permaculture design advisor with offering a free service.
About this eco school farm that you've set up here. We're in Wanganui in New Zealand.
Yeah, so we left our little 700 square meter section. We're on 5 hectares now, 13 acres, and essentially we are developing a highly resilient farm using regenerative strategies and techniques.
Okay.
We know that the forecast is for greater floods and greater droughts, and so we're simultaneously flood-proofing and drought-proofing our property. We're dealing with erosion and slips. It's a worn-out horse property. We're building soil fertility. We're decompacting the soils, increasing soil life, increasing its water holding capacity, planting windbreaks, planting poplars on the steep slopes. We fenced off our entire stream, planted 1,400 native trees, working on water quality, wetland restoration, market gardening, orchard, food forest, essentially using plants and animals to rehabilitate this really worn out, degraded property.
So I noticed on the drive here, farms don't tend to look like this. They're quite barren, they're quite overgrazed, there's a lot of sheep or cows in that, and there's not many trees planted, and especially now in the middle of summer it's quite dried out conditions. And was that the conditions of this farm when you first moved on to here? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, we've only been here 2 years,
Okay.
and this paddock that we're in is pretty much the way it's actually better than it was, because we've got the horses off. We've added a lot of lime to raise the pH to encourage soil life. You can see all the clover growing right now, it's putting more fertility into the soil. We've got heaps of bees, hopefully making honey for us. But down in the valley, we, in June of 2015, when we had the floods, we had slips. We'd been on the property 10 months at that point. We hadn't even planted a single poplar pole. But the legacy of poor land management, soil, massive slips going down the hillside. And whereas on the drive out here, you could probably count 1,000 slips. In 2 kilometers from town to here, you could look out in those valleys and count 1,000 slips. What has he done since then? Hasn't planted a single tree. We've got like 3 slips and we've planted 80 poplar poles, And so here's the difference between what's becoming a resilient farm and a very non-resilient farm.
So when you've got the animals and they're overgrazing on a land like this, and they're, as you say, in the steeper areas, and it causes slips, what happens on the flatter areas? What kind of problems does it cause to the soil in those contexts?
Well, when it's dry, they're all going to go down. There's going to be when it's dry, the water's down below in the flatter areas around the creeks, maybe. So, one thing, you get stock in the water, which pollutes the water. It destabilizes the stream banks, so the next flood is more likely to cause more erosion. And if you get the stock constantly mobbing in the only areas where there's any soil moisture, you're going to further compact and marginalize that space as well. I mean, you know, in order to make regenerative farming relevant to every single farmer in New Zealand, I don't want to be talking to a niche population. Let's start by best practice. You know, like best practice land management. Let's just do that first. You know, that's not organic or biodynamic or conventional. That's just best practice. Because anything less, long term, is failure. You know, when you lose your soil, you lose your farm, you lose your livelihood. So best practice is the place to start. When I looked up, there was this workshop coming to Palmy called The Resilient Farmer. I was like, sweet, I'm going. I went there, and it was a 2-hour workshop for free at the Awapuni race courses. 300 farmers in the room with their wives. And the first thing I thought is, why are there 300 farmers here? Second, why are there wives here? I didn't know there were so many farmers interested in resilient farming. The first hour was talking about depression and suicide. And I was like, and they don't report it in the press here, but there's huge, suicide, depression, rural depression, big mortgages, climate change, droughts, floods, cost of repairing fences, volatile milk market, volatile meat market, probably wool as well. That's not resilient at all.
So you think there might be a link there, if, your personal health and your personal well-being to the health and well-being of the land, and then maybe they reflect each other.
Yeah, and this guy Doug Avery, he's the resilient farmer guy. Like, yeah, he was on a really drought-stricken farm. And he was totally stressed out. He changed his management techniques. I mean, this is what I understand. And, he became, more profitable, less in debt. And guess what? He wasn't so depressed anymore. So he's out there spreading the word. Now, they're sponsored by all these products and stuff, and I don't know about that all. But essentially, if we can build resilient farms using best practice, let's halt erosion, let's drought-proof and flood-proof and improve water quality. We can plant trees which not only stabilize banks but also provide emergency stock fodder in the summertime if there is a drought. It's all just common sense.
What kind of support is there? I've spoken to a few farmers previously, and with the low return from the farming market and the cost of maintaining the land, they're unwilling in a lot of cases to invest in a lot of tree planting and a lot of restorative practices. Is there support out there available to people in this region for undertaking those practices?
Yeah, I mean, these might be the same farmers that in a good year go out and buy a new Holden ute, right? So
they're not investing wisely.
You can't only talk to them during a bad year, I mean, we know farmers buy new utes and boats when they get a good payout. Wanganui is a little bit different because we have more hill country, but Horizons Regional Council, I think they're great. I think they are really fantastic at supporting, independent advice on best practice. They subsidize poplar poles. They've paid for half of the cost of our fencing, our streams. They've provided native tree plantings for us. I think it's an excellent regional council, and really onto it farmers are going to take advantage of that advice.
And it's going to be a bit of a slow process, isn't it, to go from that kind of overgrazed, dry farm landscape to something that's more productive and more healthy. What would be some of the early changes that they could put in place to start that regenerative process on their farm?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing to do would be to you want to be on adequate stock. Farmers become more profitable by lowering their stocking rates because they are growing larger, healthier animals, and the land is actually regenerating, by rotational grazing. They're getting their grasses, they're building, capacity of their grasslands. So you want, you want to have a not to be overstocked. And then I would say you go right, if you're on hill country, you're looking at, I'd say poplar poles, and if you've got remnant wetlands on your property, fence those and plant them. Okay. The higher that wetland is on your property, the more it's going to drought proof every part of your property downstream. Now our wetland is at the exact bottom of our property, so in terms of benefits to us as farmers, zero benefits. The benefits are biodiversity, stream quality, everyone who lives downstream of us, and the farmers downstream of us benefit from what we've done, in terms of it's going to hold more water and release it in dry periods. So,
and I was thinking, how that might tie in with a few of those things you're mentioning with resiliency and that mental well-being. Right? If you're out there nowadays and you've got your career, but it might be pulled out from you at any point. Like if you are developing this resilient system and you're invested in it, and it's improving your mental well-being through that relationship with the land, that must be quite a good place and a resilient place to be in, compared to being in a career that might be taken from you at any moment, depending on changing and markets and things.
Yeah, purpose. Purpose in life. Gosh, what could be more important to your own mental well-being? I work about 70 hours a week in eco-design, and I have done so for as long as I can remember. But every morning I get up and I get excited. I was like, I wanted to check on these ducklings. Yeah. This morning, they were hatched yesterday afternoon when I was at work. I got up at 5:30. So excited, a new day. Yeah. You get that purpose, and you look at what's going on in the world right now. We've got climate change, income inequality. We've got some political thing happening in America. I can't remember what it is. Yeah. It's depressing, right? Like, man, you gotta find, don't protest. Don't protest. Don't go in the streets and blabby. Don't go on Facebook and like some stupid thing. Get your hands dirty. Yeah. My life is my protest. You want to see what my protest is? Yeah. Albert Camus said, you want to know someone. Show me where you live and I tell you who you are. Well, it's pretty obvious. But yeah, get off your bum, get off your screen, and just do it, and then, by being physically active, you improve your mental well-being.
Well, thank you, Nelson.
Yeah.